The Broncos, who provided us with great content during the 2022 NFL season because they did the thing they weren't supposed to do at the time they weren't supposed to do it, which is lose a bunch of games. They were supposed to be a playoff team, and they didn't even sniff the playoffs. So the Broncos, they now have a whale of an owner, one of these Walmart people. They've also got a job opening on the sidelines. That is a sexy combo. That is a sexy combo as they go big game hunting, or in this case, big name hunting. Now, Russell Wilson has decided that, you know what he's decided? He's decided that he would like to get involved. He would like to be part of this. Now, he's not the general manager of the Broncos. He's not the owner of the Broncos, but he certainly has the Broncos by the balls right now. Russell Wilson has decided to enter the chat on Denver's coaching search. Now, if you haven't heard about this, maybe not. It's been bouncing around the echo chamber for the last few hours. So we learned that Russell Wilson, that guy, Russ, Mr. Unlimited, has reached out to Sean Payton himself about the Broncos coaching job. Sean Payton meeting already with Denver brass. This story originated with our colleague here on Fox Sports Radio, Colin Cowherd. He reported that Russell Wilson has indeed contacted Payton, and Cowherd said legally, by the way, through channels, says that he wants Sean Payton. Russell Wilson wants Sean Payton. He needs fixing. He knows he needs fixing. I love it. What is he, a dog? He needs to be fixed? All right. Anyway, Sean Payton and Russ, apparently they had a cordial get-together, conversations, allegedly, and they do hang in the same circles. They've competed against each other for a few years here, and also the Pro Bowl, they've run into each other, and so they casually know each other as acquaintances. So there's a fair amount to unpack from the suitcase on this one, so let's discuss the question. Are you in or are you out on Russell Wilson contacting Sean Payton about the Bronco coaching job? So I am out. I am out. I'm not in. I'm out. I'm out. All right, so I've got rose ceremony, cotton candy, and pork barrel. And we'll put all of these things together, and we are going to make the Baba Ganoush. We're going to make the Baba Ganoush for Jerome in Kansas City, who stopped calling the show because he left the Bills-Chiefs playoff game early, and he's never called since. Baba Ganoush, man. All right, we'll make it for you, Jerome. So let's put all these things together. So number one. This Russell Wilson story does not smell right. Most Russell Wilson stories do not smell right. Russell was an abject failure in his opening stanza in Denver. You know that. I know that. Everyone knows that. Even people that couldn't tell you the difference between a football and a softball know that. He was not only a quarterback, he was terrible. The Broncos thought they were purchasing a porterhouse steak, and they ended up getting minced meat from Seattle. That's what they got in exchange. They traded a bunch of draft picks, which I don't have a problem with. I'm okay with that. I'm F them picks guy. But if you're going to trade the picks, you got to get something back. You got to get something back of value. And so they traded all those picks, and they got a nothing. A bag of hot air is what they got, right? That's it. And the performance that Russell Wilson put on the field, they could have gotten the Broncos, a guy from the Canadian Football League, from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who would have put up a similar stat line. And so you're telling me that the player who put up a disastrous season is now meddling in the coaching search. You know what that is? A Mama Luke is what that is. Now, if you're Sean Payton, don't you have to take a deep breath and then do some soul searching? Like, now, my advice, I would treat this. Now, I've only seen, I think, 2.5 episodes of the show in my life, and it was years ago. It's been on for like pretty much my entire adult life. But The Bachelor, all right. So hold a rose ceremony if you're Sean Payton, and the Broncos will not receive a rose. They are eliminated, And that's based upon Payton's feelings, of course. At least it should be his feelings, because primarily if you're the coach and you want to have firm control and all that, you want Russell Wilson impeding? Now, as far as the Cowherd story and his report that he made sure to point out that this was all done legally and all that, there's no way for it to be illegal. Russell Wilson, players are allowed to collude. Players are allowed to tamper. There's no rule against tampering for players. It's only for executives and coaches. And so players are allowed to tamper. So it's not like by the rules. There are no rules. It's the Old West when it comes to that kind of thing. But again, if I'm Sean Payton, I'm like, all right, no rose for you. And I'm going to cross the Broncos off my list of suitors because that is not helpful. Russ' contract is massive, right? Massive deal. Outside of the John Hancock, he has not done a damn thing in the state of Colorado. I guess he has purchased a big house. All right, so outside of signing his name and buying a massive house, that's it. He does not warrant the kind of influence, and it's a slippery slope, and it's another example of the Bronco franchise being inept. All right, now, page 2. Who do you think leaked this story about Russell Wilson schmoozing Sean Payton? So on the surface, many people immediately said, oh, that's got to be Sean Payton, and they're connecting the dots, and he's like Fox guy, and Cowherd knows him because he works at the same building and all that. But upon further investigation, snooping around here, the arrow is actually pointing at Russell Wilson. All right, so don't fall for, this must come from Sean Payton. No, I think this comes from Russell Wilson. And here's why. Let me make my elevator pitch. So Russell Wilson's very keen on marketing. It's all about image. So he's got marketing consultants who are clearly worried about his Q rating because he was on the vomit comet during the 2022 season. So the story is a home run. This particular story, because the low information fan eats this kind of stuff up. I'm not talking about the sports talk radio listener. You're a more engaged fan. I'm talking about the casual fan that's not fully engaged. Those types eat this stuff up like cotton candy at the county fair. It's light, fluffy, and sugary, and they love it. All right? And for Mr. Unlimited, it's perfect. It shows humility. You make sure to have the messaging just right. You got to get the message out just like you like. Like Russell Wilson knows he needs fixing. He knows it. Right? Now, why would you leak it now? Well, you strike while the iron is hot, but it really is a win-win situation because if the Broncos get Payton, if Sean Payton goes to Denver, you then take a bow. If you're Russell Wilson, you take a bow. You say that you helped clear the runway for landing and you have a little bit of influence to get the deal done, and you're part of the reason that this happened. Now, on the other hand, if Sean Payton says, screw you, I am not going to go to the Broncos, he does not get the gig. If you're Russell Wilson, you shrug your shoulders. You say you tried. There's nothing more that you can do, and you've admitted you have a problem, and you need this to get better. But either way, in the eyes of the ignorant, fanatic, you've done a good job. Good job by you. All right, final point. So what would a Sean Payton trade look like for the Broncos? It would mean they're going deeper and deeper into debt. I was just reading a story many hours ago about the national debt here in the United States with $31 trillion, something like that. Denver, they already went to the high rollers table. And we mentioned they thought they were getting a Bentley. They ended up getting a jalopy. And now they are trying to correct that mistake by using more pork barrel spending. Like the Saints, they want a first-round pick for Sean Payton. That's a hard sell for Denver because if you look at their situation, like in hindsight, Payton sounds really good, but how many years was he in New Orleans, right? He was there, I don't know, around 15 years. in the Bayou, give or take. And he had, every one of those years, he had a top 4 quarterback in the NFL, historically a top 10 quarterback at his disposal in Drew Brees, and they won 1 Super Bowl. That's it. They won 1. And Russell Wilson, at this stage in the game, is not even a top 10 quarterback. He's a baseline guy, and that's if you're being nice. And the Broncos, we know they already unloaded their number 1 pick, top 10 pick, went to Seattle in the Russell Wilson trade. Now, there is a path here to get Sean Payton because the Broncos do have the 29th pick, which could get worse based on how the playoffs end, but they have the 49ers pick in the first round. So it is conceivable, if they wanted to, they would be able to use the selection to get Payton. Otherwise, they don't have a pick until the 3rd round, if that matters to you. But this just feels like chasing one mistake with another mistake, and then you've got a whole bunch of problems. Like an eye for an eye, the old Gandhi quote, right? An eye for an eye, and you know how that ends.